Sarah stared at the motley crew of alien super soldiers assembled before her, fighting the urge to burst into hysterical laughter. This was supposed to be the cream of the crop. The elite warriors from across the galaxy? They looked more like rejects from a B-movie costume department. "Welcome, esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice dripping with sarcasm, "to Earth's premier military training facility. I'm sure you're all thrilled to be here." A chorus of grunts, clicks, and what might have been a burp echoed through the room. Sarah bit her lip to keep from grinning. Oh, this was going to be fun. "I'm Commander Sarah Johnson, and I'll be your primary instructor for the duration of your stay. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why in the name of all that's holy are we taking lessons from squishy little humans?" She paused dramatically, savoring the confused looks on their alien faces. "Well, buckle up, buttercups, because you're about to find out." The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably, their tentacles, claws, and various appendages twitching nervously. Sarah could practically hear their thoughts. These pitiful humans? Train us? Hey, little did they know, they were in for the shock of their lives. "Let's start with a little history lesson, shall we?" Sarah's grin turned predatory. Earth, or as you lot so charmingly call it, Deathworld Prime, has been kicking ass and taking names since before your great-great-grandparents were a twinkle in the cosmic eye. She paced back and forth, her boots clicking ominously on the polished floor. "We've survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and more wars than you can shake a stick at. Hell, we even made it through the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. A confused murmur rippled through the crowd. Sarah waved her hand dismissively. "Never mind, inside joke. The point is, we're tough as nails and twice as sharp." She stopped in front of a particularly unimpressed-looking alien, a hulking mass of purple muscle with more eyes than seemed strictly necessary. "You there, big guy. What's your name?" The alien's multiple eyes blinked in unison. "Grisette TK," it rumbled. Gesundheit, Sarah replied without missing a beat. "So, Grizzy TK, I bet you think you're pretty tough, huh? Could probably bench press a small moon." Grizzy TK puffed up its chest, or what Sarah assumed was its chest, and nodded proudly. Sarah's smile widened. "That's adorable. Now, let me tell you about my grandmother. Sweet old lady makes a mean apple pie. She also once fought off a bear with nothing but a rolled-up newspaper and harsh language." The alien's eyes widened in disbelief. Sarah nodded sagely. "True story. The bear still sends her a Christmas card every year." She turned to address the entire group. "That, my extraterrestrial friends, is what we call human ingenuity. It's not about being the biggest, the strongest, or having the most advanced technology. It's about thinking on your feet, adapting to impossible situations, and never, ever giving up." A tentacled creature near the back raised what might have been a hand. But we were told humans were weak, fragile. How can this be?" Sarah's laughter echoed through the room. "Oh, honey, whoever told you that is in for a rude awakening. Sure, we might not have exoskeletons or acid blood or whatever the hell that is." She gestured vaguely at a gelatinous blob. "But what we lack in physical advantages, we more than make up for in sheer, bull-headed stubbornness." She clapped her hands together, the sound making several aliens jump. "Now, who's ready to get their asses handed to them in the name of interstellar cooperation?" The room fell silent. Sarah's grin turned positively feral. "That's what I thought. Let's begin, shall we?" The first day of training was, to put it mildly, a disaster. Sarah watched with a mixture of amusement and exasperation as her alien students struggled with even the most basic human military concepts. "No, Exizalcar P, you can't just dissolve the obstacle course with your gastric juices," she sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. "The point is to navigate it, not destroy it." The amorphous blob gurgled apologetically, leaving a trail of sizzling foam in its wake. Meanwhile, Grizzy TK was having a meltdown over the concept of camouflage. "But I am proud warrior," it bellowed, flexing its numerous muscles. "Why would I hide?" Sarah took a deep breath, reminding herself that patience was a virtue. "Because, my dear purple friend, sometimes the element of surprise is more valuable than raw strength. Now put on the damn ghillie suit before I staple it to your hide." As the day wore on, Sarah found herself alternating between laughter and frustrated groans. These were supposed to be the best of the best, she'd seen toddlers with better coordination and common sense. By the time the sun set, the training grounds looked like a war zone if wars were fought with slapstick comedy and utter confusion. Aliens lay sprawled in various states of exhaustion, some tangled in ropes, others covered in mud, and at least one stuck halfway up a tree. Sarah stood before them, hands on her hips, fighting to keep a straight face. Well, ladies, gentlemen, and assorted other beings, I'd say that was a productive first day. A collective groan rose from the assembled aliens. "Oh, don't be such babies," Sarah chided, her voice thick with mock sympathy. "This is just the warm-up. Tomorrow we start the real training." The groans intensified. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. "Welcome to Earth, folks. I hope you brought your A-game, because you're going to need it." As the weeks went by, something remarkable began to happen. Slowly but surely, the alien super soldiers started to improve. It wasn't always pretty. There were still plenty of mishaps, explosions, and the occasional accidental shape-shifting incident, but progress was undeniable. Sarah watched with growing pride as her motley crew tackled each new challenge with increasing skill and determination. Even Greasy KK, who had initially scoffed at the idea of strategy, was now gleefully outsmarting his opponents in war games. One particularly memorable day, Sarah decided it was time to introduce them to one of humanity's most potent weapons, coffee. "All right, you lovable disasters," she announced, wheeling in a cart laden with steaming mugs. "Today we're going to explore the human secret weapon for dealing with early mornings, late nights, and general exhaustion." The aliens eyed the dark liquid suspiciously. Exizalcarp extended a pseudopod, poking at its mug cautiously. "It's not alive," Exizalcarp, Sarah assured the blob. "Though after a few cups, you might feel like it is." She demonstrated the proper technique for consuming coffee, taking a long sip and sighing contentedly. "Ah, nectar of the gods. Well, go on then. Give it a try." What followed was a scene that Sarah would treasure for years to come. Tentacles, proboscises, and various alien mouthparts awkwardly maneuvered around mug rims. Slurping sounds filled the air, followed by a cacophony of reactions. Grizzy Takei's eyes widened to comical proportions, all blinking rapidly in sequence. This is magnificent," it bellowed, downing the entire mug in one gulp. Another. Exizalcarp, on the other hand, began to vibrate at an alarming frequency, its gelatinous form rippling like a pond in an earthquake. "Is this supposed to happen?" it burbled, words running together in a caffeinated frenzy. Sarah watched in fascinated horror as the blob began to divide, splitting into several smaller Exizalcarps, each vibrating at a different pitch. Okay, note to self: no more coffee for the amoeboids. By the end of the day, the training facility looked like it had been hit by a tornado, a very jittery, hyperactive tornado. Aliens ricocheted off walls, completed obstacle courses in record time, often by simply plowing through the obstacles, and engaged in heated debates about the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. Sarah stood in the middle of the chaos, sipping her own coffee with a serene smile. And that, my friends, is how humans conquered the stars. One cup of joe at a time. As the training program entered its final weeks, Sarah found herself facing an unexpected challenge. Her alien students were actually starting to impress her. Gone were the bumbling, uncoordinated beings she'd met on day one. In their place stood a group of competent, adaptable warriors who were beginning to grasp the essence of what made humans such formidable opponents. It was time for the final test. "All right, you magnificent weirdos," Sarah addressed the assembled aliens, her voice a mix of pride and mischief. "You've come a long way from the sorry lot I first laid eyes on. You've mastered our tactics, survived our coffee, and even learned to appreciate the subtle art of the high five." She paused, glancing meaningfully at Groziteke, who had enthusiastically embraced the concept, much to the chagrin of his smaller classmates. "Some of you perhaps a little too well." A ripple of laughter, or what passed for laughter among the various species, spread through the group. But now Sarah continued, her expression turning serious. "It's time for your final challenge. A test that will push you to your limits and beyond. A trial that will separate the wheat from the chaff, the cream from the milk, well, you get the idea." The aliens leaned in, their anticipation palpable. Sarah's grin turned positively devilish. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted other beings, Prepare yourselves for game night. A confused murmur spread through the crowd. Exizil who had finally managed to reintegrate its multiple coffee-induced selves, burbled questioningly. Game night? Is this some form of gladiatorial combat? Sarah's laughter echoed through the room. Oh, sweet summer child, it's so much worse than that. Tonight you'll face challenges that will test your strategy, your teamwork, and your ability to remain friends in the face of utter betrayal. She gestured dramatically to a table laden with colorful boxes. Behold, the instruments of your doom. I mean fun. We have Monopoly, the destroyer of familial bonds. Risk, the game that started more arguments than actual wars. And for those of you feeling particularly masochistic, Twilight Imperium. The aliens approached the table cautiously, as if expecting the brightly colored boxes to attack at any moment. But wait, Sarah continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. There's more. No game night would be complete without snacks. With a flourish, she unveiled a spread that would make any convenience store proud. Chips, dips, cookies, and an alarming array of neon-colored beverages covered every available surface. Now, Sarah said, rubbing her hands together gleefully, let the games begin. And may the odds be ever in your favor. What followed was a night that would go down in intergalactic history. Alliances were formed and shattered. Empires rose and fell. Fortunes were made and lost. And through it all, Sarah watched with the proud satisfaction of a teacher seeing her students finally grasp a difficult lesson. Grizzy TK, it turned out, had a natural talent for monopoly, quickly amassing a real estate empire that would make Donald Trump weep with envy. The hulking alien cackled with glee as it placed yet another hotel on boardwalk. I am capitalist God, it roared triumphantly. Exizil meanwhile, had taken to risk with an enthusiasm that bordered on the terrifying. Its amorphous form spread across the board, engulfing continents with a speed that left its opponents reeling. All your base are belong to us, it burbled, having apparently picked up some Earth pop culture, along with its military training. But it was the Twilight Imperium table that truly showcased how far the aliens had come. Species that once couldn't stand to be in the same room were now engaged in complex negotiations, forming and breaking alliances with a subtlety that would make Machiavelli proud. Sarah moved from table to table, offering encouragement, adjudicating disputes, and occasionally adding fuel to the fire with well-timed rule clarifications. As the night wore on and the snack pile dwindled, she couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. These beings, once so alien and incomprehensible, were now displaying the very qualities that made humanity a force to be reckoned with: adaptability, cunning, and the ability to turn any situation, even a friendly game night, into a fierce competition. As dawn broke, and the games finally wound down, Sarah gathered her exhausted but exhilarated students. Well done, all of you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You came here as warriors, but you're leaving as something much more important: gamers. A cheer went up from the assembled aliens, punctuated by the occasional burp. Turns out some species had trouble processing Mountain Dew. But more than that. Sarah continued, you've learned what truly makes humans dangerous. It's not our strength, or our technology, or even our caffeine addiction. It's our ability to adapt, to think outside the box, and to never, ever give up, even when we're down to our last few hotels and the dice have turned against us. She looked around at the motley crew, feeling a sudden surge of affection for these strange, wonderful beings. You came here expecting to learn how to fight humans. Instead, you've learned how to think like us. And let me tell you, that's a far more powerful weapon than any ray gun or battle cruiser. Grizzy TK raised one of its many hands. But Commander Sarah, it rumbled, does this mean we are now ready to conquer Earth? Sarah's laughter filled the room. Oh, my sweet summer child. After tonight, I don't think you'd want to. You see, you've all been thoroughly infected. A panicked murmur spread through the group. Exizil began to ripple anxiously, preparing to split into its component parts at a moment's notice. Relax, Sarah said, holding up her hands. It's not a virus, at least, not in the traditional sense. You've been infected with something far more potent: humanity. She gestured around the room, at the scattered game pieces, the empty snack bags, and the expressions of confused joy on alien faces. You've experienced our competitiveness, our creativity, our capacity for both cooperation and conflict. You've tasted our junk food and imbibed our questionable beverages. In short, you've gotten a glimpse of what makes us us." The aliens looked at each other, then back at Sarah, realization dawning in eyes, eye stalks, and sensory organs of all descriptions. "So you see," Sarah concluded with a wink, "there's no need to conquer Earth. You're all honorary humans now. Welcome to the family, you magnificent weirdos." And with that, the most unlikely graduation ceremony in the history of the galaxy came to an end. As the aliens filed out, chattering excitedly about rematches and snack preferences, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. When she'd been assigned to this post, she'd thought it was a joke or worse, a punishment. Train alien super soldiers. It had seemed like a recipe for disaster. But now, looking at the bonds formed and the lessons learned, she realized it had been something else entirely, a masterclass in diplomacy, disguised as a military training program. After all, what better way to prevent interstellar war than to show potential enemies that humans were just as weird, just as flawed, and just as wonderful as any other species in the galaxy? Sarah chuckled to herself as she began to clean up the remnants of game night. Let the politicians and generals have their treaties and their war games. She'd just averted a cosmic conflict armed with nothing more than a stack of board games, a pile of junk food, and good old-fashioned human insanity. As she picked up a stray Monopoly house, a thought struck her. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something bigger. A new era of intergalactic understanding, built on the foundations of shared experiences and the universal language of competitive board gaming. Sarah snorted at her own sentimentality. "Get a grip, Johnson," she muttered to herself. "Next thing you know, you'll be suggesting we solve interplanetary disputes with twister tournaments." She paused, considering the mental image of Grisette KK attempting to place its numerous appendages on colored dots. A grin spread across her face. Actually, that might not be such a bad idea. Word of the unconventional training program spread quickly through the galactic grapevine. What had started as a joke, sending the galaxy's most fearsome warriors to train with squishy, primitive humans, had turned into the hottest ticket in town. Suddenly, every alien species worth its salt or silicon or antimatter wanted in on the action. Sarah found herself promoted to Chief Instructor of Interstellar Relations, a title that looked impressive on paper, but mostly meant she had to deal with even more bureaucratic nonsense. Still, she couldn't complain. The job had its perks. Like today, for instance. Sarah stood before a new batch of alien students, each looking more bizarre than the last. She spotted what appeared to be a sentient cloud of gas, a being made entirely of crystal, and something that looked suspiciously like a mobile fern. "Welcome, esteemed guests, to Earth's premier cultural exchange program," Sarah began, her voice dripping with just enough sarcasm to sail over most alien heads. "I'm Commander Sarah Johnson, and I'll be your guide to all things human for the duration of your stay." The crystalline being raised a faceted appendage. "Excuse me, Commander," it chimed in a voice like tinkling glass, "but I was under the impression this was a military training facility." Sarah's grin widened. "Oh, it is. But you see, on Earth, our greatest battles are fought not on fields of war, but in the arenas of popular culture and social interaction." A confused murmur rippled through the assembled aliens. "Allow me to demonstrate," Sarah continued, pulling out her smartphone. "This, my extraterrestrial friends, is one of humanity's most powerful weapons. With this device, we can start wars, end relationships, and utterly destroy reputations, all without leaving the comfort of our couch." She held up the phone, its screen displaying a social media app. Behold, the battleground of the 21st century Twitter. The aliens leaned in, their various sensory organs straining to make sense of the rapidly scrolling feed of text and images. "Now, pay close attention," Sarah instructed, her fingers flying over the screen. "I'm about to demonstrate an advanced human technique known as subtweeting." What followed was a masterclass in passive-aggressive communication, meme warfare, and the delicate art of the well-timed GIF. By the end of the demonstration, half the aliens were thoroughly confused, a quarter were taking furious notes, and at least 3 had developed a sudden and inexplicable desire to share pictures of their last meal. And that, my friends, Sarah concluded with a flourish, is how humans wage war in the digital age. Any questions? The sentient gas cloud pulsed slightly, emitting a series of beeps and whistles that Sarah's universal translator rendered as, "But where are the explosions, the death rays, the planet-destroying superweapons?" Sarah chuckled. "Oh, sweet summer nebula. Who needs death rays when you have cancel culture?" The mobile fern rustled agitatedly. "This cannot be the extent of human warfare," it protested. "We have heard tales of your species' ferocity in battle, of your indomitable will and savage strength." "Ah, yes," Sarah nodded sagely. "You speak of our most fearsome warriors, the undisputed champions of Earth's most brutal competition." She paused for dramatic effect. "I give you Black Friday shoppers." With a snap of her fingers, the room's holographic projectors sprang to life, filling the air with scenes of chaotic department stores, frenzied crowds battling over discounted electronics, and shopping carts wielded like battering rams. The aliens watched in horrified fascination as humans engaged in retail combat, their savagery matched only by their determination to save 40% on a big-screen TV. By the great void the crystalline being whispered, its facets paling slightly. They're monsters." Sarah nodded solemnly. "Now you begin to understand the true nature of humanity. We are a species forged in the fires of consumerism, tempered by the relentless onslaught of targeted advertising, and honed to a razor's edge by the cutthroat world of online reviews." She began to pace, her voice taking on the tone of a grizzled general addressing her troops. "You came here expecting to learn about human military tactics, but what you'll receive is far more valuable. We're going to teach you how to navigate the treacherous waters of human social interaction. You'll learn to decipher the hidden meanings in our words, to understand the subtle nuances of our body language, and to master the arcane art of small talk." The aliens exchanged nervous glances, clearly wondering what they'd gotten themselves into. "By the time you leave this facility," Sarah continued, her eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and genuine enthusiasm, "you'll be able to engage in pointless arguments on the internet, complain about the weather with the best of us, and maybe figure out why we're so obsessed with cats." She clapped her hands together, the sound making several aliens jump. "Now, who's ready for their first lesson in human culture? Today's topic: the intricate social dynamics of the office break room, as exemplified by the timeless human classic Friends." As Sarah fired up the holographic projector once more, she couldn't help but smile. Sure, this wasn't exactly what she'd signed up for when she joined the military, but she had to admit teaching aliens about humanity's quirks and foibles was a lot more fun than traditional combat training. And who knows? Maybe by the time this batch of students graduated, they'd be ready for the ultimate test of their newfound human skills navigating a family Thanksgiving dinner without starting an intergalactic incident. Sarah chuckled to herself as the familiar notes of the Friends theme song filled the room. Oh yes, this was going to be interesting. As the weeks went by, Sarah's unconventional training program continued to yield surprising results. The aliens, initially baffled by human behavior, began to show signs of adaptation that were both impressive and slightly alarming. The sentient gas cloud, whom Sarah had taken to calling Puffy, had developed a knack for puns that left even the most hardened human groaners in awe. Its ability to manipulate its gaseous form allowed for visual puns that transcended language barriers and occasionally violated the laws of physics. The crystalline being, dubbed Sparkles by the rest of the class, had taken to human fashion with an enthusiasm that bordered on obsession. It had figured out how to rearrange its facets to mimic various clothing styles and was currently sporting what appeared to be a crystalline version of a Hawaiian shirt. As for the mobile fern, well, Sarah was still trying to figure out how it had managed to become a TikTok sensation overnight. Its photosynthesis dance had apparently gone viral, spawning countless imitation videos across the galaxy. But it was during the Understanding Human Emotions Through Reality TV module that Sarah realized just how far her students had come. "All right, class," she announced, switching off the holographic display that had been showing a particularly dramatic episode of the Bachelor Pop Quiz Time. "Who can tell me what emotions were at play in that last scene?" Puffy pulsed excitedly, emitting a series of beeps that the translator rendered as, "Ooh, ooh, I know this one." The female human was exhibiting classic signs of what humans call throwing shade. While simultaneously engaging in the ritual of spilling the tea, this behavior is typically accompanied by feelings of smugness and a desire for social validation. Sarah blinked, impressed despite herself. "That's actually spot on, Puffy. Well done." Sparkles chimed in, its facets glittering with excitement. And the male human's response was a textbook example of playing it cool while internally experiencing what humans refer to as freaking out. The slight twitch in his left eye and the tension in his jaw were dead giveaways. "Excellent observation," Sparkles Sarah nodded approvingly. "You're really getting the hang of reading human micro-expressions." The mobile fern rustled its leaves, producing a sound that the translator interpreted as a thoughtful hum. "What I find most intriguing," it mused, "is the complex interplay of genuine emotion and performative behavior. These humans are simultaneously experiencing real feelings while also consciously crafting narratives for the audience's consumption. It's a fascinating example of meta-emotional expression." Sarah stared at the fern, momentarily at a loss for words. Wow. That's a level of analysis I wouldn't expect from most human viewers, let alone interstellar exchange students." She shook her head, a mix of pride and bemusement washing over her. These aliens weren't just learning about human culture, they were developing insights that made even her, a lifelong human, see her own species in a new light. "Well, folks," Sarah said, clapping her hands together, "I think you're ready for the next level. It's time to move beyond observation and into practical application. Your next assignment: create and maintain a social media presence." A ripple of excitement passed through the class. "But here's the catch," Sarah continued, a mischievous glint in her eye. "You'll be role-playing as humans. Your task is to blend in, to become so convincingly human that even other humans can't tell you're aliens." Puffy swirled excitedly. "Ooh, like that human entertainment program. What was it called? Catfish." Sarah laughed. "Close, but not quite. Think of it more like a massive, multiplayer version of the Turing test. Your goal is to engage with real humans online without arousing suspicion. You'll need to master everything we've learned about human communication, cultural references, and social norms." She paced in front of the class, her voice taking on a tone of mock seriousness. "Remember, the internet is a battlefield unlike any other. You'll face trolls, encounter memes you don't understand, and navigate the treacherous waters of online dating. But fear not, for I have faith in your abilities. You've survived Earth's gravity, our caffeine, and even our reality TV. The internet should be a piece of cake." The aliens exchanged nervous glances, a mix of excitement and trepidation rippling through the group. "Now," Sarah said with a grin, "let's create some human personas for each of you. Puffy, I'm thinking you'd make an excellent food critic. Sparkles, with your fashion sense, you're definitely an Instagram influencer. And you," she pointed at the mobile fern, "are going to be a lifestyle guru specializing in indoor plants. Let's see how long it takes for you to get a book deal." What followed was a crash course in creating online identities, crafting the perfect profile pictures, which involved a lot of creative photography and even more creative use of filters, and mastering the art of the humble brag. Weeks flew by, and Sarah watched with a mixture of pride and amusement as her alien students took to social media like ducks to water. Puffy's food blog, Gastronomic Adventures, became an overnight sensation, praised for its ethereal descriptions of flavor. Sparkle's Instagram account, @CrystalCouture, amassed millions of followers who couldn't get enough of its cutting-edge fashion sense. And the mobile fern, now known as @Zingarden Guru, had indeed landed a book deal for its best-selling self-help book, Turn Over a New Leaf: Finding Inner Peace Through Photosynthesis. But it was during the final week of the program that Sarah realized just how successful her unconventional teaching methods had been. As she scrolled through her own social media feed, she found herself constantly second-guessing which accounts belonged to her alien students and which were genuine humans. They had become so adept at mimicking human behavior that even she, their instructor, could barely tell the difference. On the last day of the program, Sarah gathered her students for a final address. The room was buzzing with excitement, aliens chattering in a mix of their native languages and newly acquired human slang. "All right, settle down, you magnificent weirdos," Sarah called out, a fond smile on her face. "It's time for your graduation ceremony." The room fell silent, all eyes and various other sensory organs fixed on her. "When you first arrived here," Sarah began, "you thought you were going to learn about human military tactics. You expected to uncover the secrets of our physical prowess, our advanced weaponry, our battle strategies. Instead, you got memes, social media, and an unhealthy addiction to coffee. A ripple of laughter passed through the room. But here's the thing, Sarah continued, her voice taking on a more serious tone. You've learned something far more valuable than any military secret. You've learned what it means to be human. She paced in front of them, making eye contact with each alien in turn. You've experienced our creativity, our humor, our capacity for both kindness and pettiness. You've seen the best and worst of us, often in the same Twitter thread. You've learned to navigate our social complexities, to understand our pop culture references, and to appreciate our weird obsession with cats. Sarah stopped, a mischievous glint in her eye. In short, you've become honorary humans. And let me tell you, that's a far more powerful weapon than any death ray or battleship. Because now, when you go back to your homeworlds, you won't see Earth as a threat to be conquered. You'll see it as that weird, slightly crazy friend who always has the best stories at parties. The aliens nodded, a mix of emotions playing across their various features. So, my dear graduates, Sarah concluded, I hereby declare you all honorary citizens of Earth. Use your newfound human skills wisely. And remember, with great meme knowledge comes great responsibility. As the room erupted in cheers and a few other worldly sounds that the translator couldn't quite handle, Sarah felt a wave of pride wash over her. She had set out to train alien super soldiers, and instead, she had created a group of intergalactic ambassadors armed with nothing more than a deep understanding of human culture and a wicked sense of humor. As the aliens filed out, chattering excitedly about their plans to introduce meme culture to their home planets, Sarah couldn't help but chuckle. The galaxy might not be ready for what was coming, but it was certainly going to be entertaining. She picked up her phone, opened Twitter, and began to type just graduated another class of human students. The galaxy better watch out, meme warfare is about to go intergalactic. As she hit tweet, Sarah leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile on her face. Who knew that the key to intergalactic peace would be a crash course in human absurdity? But then again, that was humanity in a nutshell, solving cosmic problems with cat videos and dad jokes. The universe, Sarah decided, was in for one hell of a ride, and she, for one, couldn't wait to see what happened next. As the sun set on another day at Earth's most unusual military training facility, Sarah raised a cup of coffee in a silent toast to humanity in all its weird and wonderful glory, and to the aliens brave enough or crazy enough to try and understand it.